The Harrington farmhouse stood like a tired sentinel on the edge of Briar Hollow, its clapboard siding warped by decades of storms and its windows veiled in grime. Outsiders whispered about it, though most of the townsfolk just shrugged. It was too far out, too forgotten, too empty. At least that's what everyone thought. Until the night Henry Mallory's dog, Scout, stopped dead in front of the old mirror propped against the barn wall. The animal's low growl silenced the small gathering, turning chuckles into uneasy glances. And when the mirror cracked without a single hand touching it, laughter died altogether. If you're pulled in by stories like this, consider liking and subscribing. It helps me keep bringing more of them your way. The night air in Briar Hollow smelled of damp hay and wood smoke. It was the kind of air that clung to you, heavy with earth, like the land itself wanted to remind you it had secrets buried beneath. A bonfire burned low in the Mallory's backyard, its flames bending in the September wind. Sparks floated upward, fading into the endless dark. Henry Mallory, a broad-shouldered man with skin like weathered leather, leaned against a fence post, sipping beer from a chipped mason jar. His eyes were always sharp, too sharp for the quiet life of a farmer, but he hid them behind long silences and a beard that made him look older than 45. "Henry," called out Martha Dunn, one of the neighbors. She had brought her 2 kids, their cheeks smudged with soot from marshmallows gone too long in the fire. "You still keep that old thing?" She gestured toward the barn where a wide, dust-covered mirror leaned against the slats. Its silver was dull, the wood frame chipped and warped. Henry shrugged. "Was here when I bought the place. Thought about burning it once, but can't bring myself to." "Should've," muttered an older man, Nathan Briggs, who had seen more seasons than his back could carry. He shifted in his chair, glancing toward the barn. "Mirrors like that. Bad luck. My father used to say they hold more than just your reflection." The kids giggled, mocking his gravelly tone. "Oh!" they teased, waving sticky marshmallow skewers like wands. That was when Scout, Henry's German shepherd, padded out from the shadows. His paws crunched on gravel, ears pricked, body taut with a tension no one else felt. He stopped in front of the mirror, tail stiff, teeth bared. "Easy, boy," Henry muttered, lowering his drink, but Scout didn't move. His low growl rumbled like something primal, something that made even the children fall silent. The dog's gaze locked on the warped glass, chest heaving. "Guess he don't like his own face," one of the kids whispered, too loud. Laughter broke out in scattered bursts, nervous, quick. Even Martha chuckled, though she kept a hand on her son's shoulder. Then it happened. The mirror trembled. Just barely, but enough for the lamplight to shiver across its surface. No one touched it. No wind blew hard enough to rattle the barn. Yet a hairline crack spread down the middle with a sound like snapping bone. The laughter stopped. Every eye fixed on the glass as the crack branched outward, splitting like veins across the surface. Scout barked once, sharp and guttural, the sound of warning. Henry moved forward, instinctively reaching for the dog's collar. His hand trembled, not from fear exactly, but from the kind of instinct that told a man when he was no longer in control of his own ground. Martha's daughter clutched her mother's arm. "Mommy, make it stop." But the mirror didn't stop. Its surface quivered, then stilled, leaving behind a jagged spiderweb of fractures. For a moment, the flames of the bonfire flickered in its broken face, multiplied into dozens of warped images. Henry swallowed hard. Party's over. No one argued. Chairs scraped against the dirt, murmurs filled the silence, and neighbors gathered their things in a hurry, as if darkness itself had grown heavier. By the time the last car taillights disappeared down the long gravel drive, only Henry, Scout, and the mirror remained. The house creaked as Henry stepped inside, the floorboards moaning beneath his boots. Scout followed close, restless, ears twitching at every sound. Henry poured himself another drink at the counter, though his hand shook enough to spill. "You too old to spook yourself," he muttered aloud, as though saying it would make it true. Still, he left the lights on. Upstairs, the hallway stretched long and narrow, lined with faded family photographs of people long gone, faces of the Mallorys who had owned this land for over a century. None of them smiled. Henry never thought about it before. Tonight, he did. Scout stopped halfway up the stairs, hackles raised, staring back at the door. The mirror leaned unseen beyond the thin wood wall, and though Henry couldn't hear it, he felt something. A weight pressing close. "Come on," Henry whispered, but Scout wouldn't move. Henry didn't sleep much that night. When he did, he dreamed of glass shattering and a voice he couldn't place whispering his name. The next morning, the sun rose weak over Briar Hollow, painting the fields gold, but the house felt colder than it should. Henry sat at the kitchen table, staring into his coffee until Martha showed up on his porch. She looked tired, her hair pulled back, her face pale in the daylight. "Henry, can we talk?" He opened the screen door, frowning. "About last night?" She nodded. "The mirror. My kids didn't sleep a wink, and I didn't either. There's something wrong with it. I know how it sounds." Henry rubbed his jaw. Probably just old with settling, or the glass finally giving out. Her eyes narrowed. "You didn't hear it, did you? After everyone left." Henry stiffened. "Hear what?" Martha hesitated, voice lowering. "Crying, like a girl crying. My daughter swore she heard it, too, coming from your barn." Henry said nothing. His silence spoke louder than denial. Secrets. Later that day, Henry found Nathan Briggs leaning against a fence, smoking. The old man had eyes like cloudy marble, but they missed nothing. "You feel it too, don't you?" Nathan asked without preamble. Henry folded his arms. "Feel what?" "The mirror." Nathan spat into the dirt. "Don't lie to me, Mallory. My daddy used to say our land keeps things. Not just bones or roots, memories. Grief sticks like sap. That mirror's been here longer than either of us. You think it cracked last night on accident?" Henry's jaw clenched. He thought about the dream, about the whisper of his name. He didn't want to believe, but his gut already had. "What do you want me to do?" "Smash it," Henry asked. Nathan's smile was grim. "Smash glass, you free what's inside. You better be damn sure you're ready." Scout barked suddenly from the porch, sharp and urgent. Both men turned. The barn door had swung open, though neither of them had touched it, and from within came the faint sound of footsteps. The barn smelled of dust and hay, the scent of animals long gone. Its wide rafters moaned under the weight of time, and thin slices of morning light cut through the slats like blades. Henry stepped in with his boots heavy, heart thudding in his ears. Nathan followed, slower but steady, a hand resting on the pocket knife clipped to his belt. Scout stood rigid in the center, teeth bared, hackles like bristles. He was fixed on the mirror. The fractured glass glistened in the light, each vein of silver catching the sun. But it wasn't the mirror itself that froze Henry's breath. It was the sound, faint, like water dripping. Except it wasn't water. It was weeping, soft, rhythmic, aching, the kind of sound that didn't belong in an empty barn. Nathan muttered something under his breath. Henry couldn't catch it. "Who's there?" Henry's voice came out sharper than he intended. The crying stopped. For a long moment, silence pressed in. Dust floated through the air, thick as smoke. Then Scout lunged, paws hitting the ground hard as he barked and snapped toward the mirror. The glass didn't shatter further, but it shifted, just slightly, as though someone had pressed against it from behind. Henry's mouth went dry. "Jesus Christ." "Don't blaspheme," Nathan said sharply, his face pale. "That thing's not just glass. It's a door." "A door to what?" Nathan's jaw worked, but he didn't answer. Instead, he reached for the mirror's frame. "Don't." Henry snapped, grabbing his arm. "I've seen this before," Nathan hissed. "Back when I was a boy, my uncle, he stopped, cutting himself off. You don't want to know, but I'll tell you this. If it's cracked, then something on the other side wants through." As if an answer, the mirror rattled against the barn wall, hard enough that dust shook down from the rafters. Scout barked furiously, refusing to back down. Henry dragged Nathan back. "We're not touching it. Not yet." Nathan's eyes burned. "Then it'll keep coming." Uneasy morning. By noon, word had spread. Small towns worked like veins. The moment one person felt a pulse, the rest carried it. Martha showed up again, her children left at home, her expression strained. You heard it too, didn't you? She asked Henry in a whisper at the porch. Henry didn't answer. Silence was answer enough. Martha's gaze drifted toward the barn. You think maybe it's her? Henry frowned. Her who? She lowered her voice further. Your wife. Henry stiffened. Clara Mallory had died 8 years ago in a fire that gutted their old house at the edge of town. Folks whispered about that too, about how Henry had been away when it happened, about how no one ever really saw him grieve. Rumors said things Henry never bothered to fight. That maybe he'd started the fire himself. That maybe Clara had run from him and never made it out. He swallowed. You shouldn't say things you don't understand. I understand grief leaves fingerprints, Martha said softly. Sometimes it stains places, things, mirrors. Henry turned away, jaw tight, but her words burrowed in like thorns. The sheriff. By late afternoon, the sheriff came. Sheriff Delaney was a lean man with a drawl that made his words seem slower than they were. He'd grown up in Briar Hollow, same as everyone else, but the badge gave him a different kind of weight. He stood in the barn doorway, hands on his hips, studying the fractured mirror. So it cracked by itself? Henry nodded. And you heard crying? Nathan snorted. We all heard it. Ain't no about it. The sheriff stepped closer, squatting down to run a hand along the frame. His fingers came back black with soot, though no fire had touched the barn in years. He frowned. You ever think maybe it's just in your heads? He asked. Henry glared. You think we imagine the glass splitting? The sheriff shrugged. Stranger things have happened. He straightened. Look, I don't know what's going on here, but I know this. Folks already talk about you, Henry. You don't want this spreading further. People will take it the wrong way. Henry's throat tightened. The wrong way how? Delaney held his gaze. Like maybe the past ain't as buried as you claim. Henry's fists clenched, but he said nothing. The sheriff walked out, his boots crunching gravel. Nathan spat after him. Coward. But Henry heard the warning under Delaney's words, and it shook him more than the mirror had. Nightfall. That night, the barn was locked again. Henry checked it twice, but Scout refused to leave the porch, eyes fixed on the dark silhouette of the barn like a soldier on watch. The moon hung heavy, silver in the fields. Henry sat on his porch, whiskey bottle at his feet, trying not to think about Clara, about her laugh, about the last fight they'd had. A sound carried across the night, not crying this time, whispering, faint like breath against glass. Henry stood, heart hammering, listening. The words were indistinct, but the rhythm of them was familiar, like Clara's voice when she used to murmur in her sleep. The barn door rattled once. Then again, Scout bolted off the porch, barking furiously. Henry followed, bottle forgotten, hand shaking as he unlatched the barn door. Inside, the mirror glowed faintly in the moonlight, and in its fractured surface, Henry saw something that made his breath catch. Not his reflection. Clara's. Her face pale, her hair tangled, her eyes wide with something between terror and plea. She lifted her hand against the glass. Henry, she whispered. The sound came not from memory, but from the barn itself. From the mirror. Henry staggered back. No, you're gone. You're gone. But Clara's lips moved again, forming words that chilled him deeper than the night air. He lied. The glass trembled, splintering further. Henry stumbled backward, colliding with a hay bale. Who lied? His voice cracked, desperate. Clara, who? Her image flickered. Behind her, the shadows deepened, forming the vague outline of another figure. Tall, broad, male, his face obscured. Clara's mouth opened in a silent scream. The mirror erupted with a deafening crack. Shards sprang outward. Scout yelped, diving back. When Henry blinked against the sting in his eyes, Clara was gone. Only jagged fractures remained, the glass clinging stubbornly to its frame. But Henry heard her voice, clear as day, echoing in his mind. Find the truth. Betrayal. Nathan came running when he heard the noise. He stopped short at the doorway, his face grim as he saw the broken mirror. Henry's chest heaved. I saw her. Clara? Nathan's voice was quiet. Henry nodded, trembling. She said someone lied. Nathan's gaze hardened. For a moment, Henry swore he saw guilt flicker there. You know something, Henry accused. Nathan didn't flinch. I know plenty, and not all of it's mine to share. Henry advanced, fist balled. You'll tell me. Now. But Nathan turned away, limping back toward the night without another word. Henry stood frozen in the barn, shards glittering at his feet. His wife's face haunted him, but it wasn't just her presence that terrified him. It was a shadow behind her. Someone in Briar Hollow had lied about Clara's death, and Henry was about to find out who. The morning after the mirrors shattered, Henry Mallory didn't open his barn. He sat at the kitchen table with a cigarette between his fingers, staring at a ring left by Clara's old coffee cup. He hadn't touched it in years, hadn't let himself. Now, the stain looked darker, fresher, as if she had just set her cup down and stepped outside. Scout lay under the table, restless, growling in his sleep. Henry's own rest hadn't come. Every time his eyes closed, Clara's face swam up from a mirror, her eyes desperate, her lips moving in that one sentence. He lied. But who? Nathan knew something. Henry could see it in his eyes. And Martha, with her questions about Clara, her sudden concern. Maybe she knew too. The dog's low whine snapped Henry back. A car crunched down his gravel drive. Through the window, he saw Sheriff Delaney's cruiser pull up, dust pluming behind it. Henry ground his cigarette into the ashtray and waited. The sheriff's visit. Delaney stepped onto the porch like he owned it. His uniform shirt was button-neat, his boots polished too clean for country mud. He didn't knock, just opened the screen and leaned into the doorway. You didn't call me, Delaney said flatly. About what? The glass. Martha says it shattered last night. Henry's jaw worked. Martha talks too much. Delaney studied him. You look like hell. Henry leaned back in his chair. I saw Clara. The sheriff didn't blink. Clara's been gone 8 years. She spoke to me, said someone lied. Silence stretched between them. Then Delaney closed the door behind him and sat across the table, hands folded. His eyes were steady, unreadable. What do you think she meant? Delaney asked softly. Henry's throat tightened. That she didn't die the way everyone said. For the first time, Delaney's mask cracked. Something flickered across his face. Unease, guilt, maybe even fear. Then it was gone. You should be careful. Henry, mirrors don't tell truths. They show what you want to see. Henry slammed his fist on the table. I don't want to see that. Scout barked from under the table. Startled by the noise, Delaney stood, smoothing his shirt. Drop it. Henry, whatever's haunting you, leave it in the ground where it belongs. But Henry saw it now, clear as the cracks in the glass. Delaney knew, and he was hiding it. Nathan's confession. That evening. Henry found Nathan Briggs by the creek, his fishing line dangling though no fish had stirred the water in years. Henry didn't bother with greetings. You knew Clara didn't die in that fire. Nathan's eyes narrowed, his weathered hand steady on the reel. Careful what you accuse a man of. You told me smash in the mirror would set something free. You knew this was coming. Nathan exhaled, slow and heavy. I knew the day would come when the truth stopped lying quiet. That mirror's been passed down through families out here longer than anyone remembers. My daddy said it shows what folks try to bury. Trouble is, once it starts, it don't stop till the whole rot comes out. Henry's breath hitched. So tell me the rot. Nathan's grip tightened on the reel. He didn't look at Henry when he said, Delaney was the last one seen with Clara. Henry froze. You're lying. But deep inside, he knew Nathan wasn't. They were close, Nathan muttered. Closer than they should have been. Folks whispered. But no one dared cross Delaney then. When the fire happened, well, he was the one who declared her body never found. He told us you were away. Told us you didn't need suspicion piled on grief. But it never sat right with me. Henry staggered back, about rising. You think Delaney killed her? Nathan turned his gaze, clouded but sharp. I think Clara never burned. I think Delaney buried the truth, somewhere only he knows. Betrayal. The barn called to Henry that night, even though the glass was nothing but shards clinging to splinters of frame. He stood before it in the moonlight, whiskey burning down his throat. "Clara," he whispered, "if you're there, show me." The broken mirror shimmered faintly, like frost spreading across a window. In its fractured pieces, her face appeared again, not whole, but scattered, eyes in one shard, mouth in another. "He's lying," her voice echoed. Henry's heart pounded. "Delaney?" Her lips formed a word. "Yes." Scout barked at the mirror, then turned toward the fields, ears pricked. A car engine hummed low in the distance. Headlights cut across the dirt road. Sheriff Delaney. He stepped out, the glint of his badge catching moonlight. His hand rested casually on the grip of his holstered gun. "You shouldn't be here, Henry," Delaney said, voice calm. "The mirror's got you chasing ghosts." Henry's fists clenched. "What did you do to Clara?" Delaney's expression didn't change, but his eyes darkened. "Don't start something you can't finish. You were with her the night she died. Nathan told me." Delaney sighed, almost pitying. "Nathan talks too much for a man whose memory's half gone. That mirror showed me the truth." Delaney stepped closer, boots crunching gravel. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Mirrors show what you fear, not what is. Then why are you so damn afraid of it?" Henry snapped. Delaney's jaw clenched. His silence was answer enough. Scout growled, stepping between them, teeth bared. For a moment, the sheriff's mask slipped entirely. His eyes flickered with something raw. Rage, guilt, maybe both. "Clara didn't deserve to suffer. I loved her, Henry, more than you ever did. She wanted to leave you. She begged me to take her away." Henry's breath caught like a blade in his throat. Delaney's voice cracked. "But she changed her mind. Said she couldn't run. Said she had to stay. I couldn't let her." The words hung heavy in the night air. Henry felt the world tilt, his chest collapsing in on itself. Scout barked, a furious sound, but Henry barely heard it. His wife had died not in fire, not by accident. She had been silenced by the man who now stood in front of him, the man the town trusted. The mirror behind them groaned, the fractured glass vibrating like a scream waiting to escape. Clara's voice burst through, sharp and anguished. "He killed me." Delaney flinched. For the first time, Henry saw fear in his eyes. The final confrontation. Delaney drew his gun. "Henry, listen to me. No one will believe you. You've been the outcast since the fire. They'll think you killed her, not me. Drop it, walk away." Henry's hand shook. "You think I'm going to carry your sin another 8 years?" Scout barked, lunging forward. Delaney raised a gun. Too slow. Henry slammed into him, years of anger exploding into his fists. The gun went skittering across the dirt. They grappled. Two men twisted in rage and grief. Delaney was wiry but fast. Henry had raw strength. The fight crashed against a barn wall. The mirror trembled violently, its cracks widening. Clara's scream ripped through the night, deafening, raw. Then the mirror shattered in full. Shards exploded outward, slicing into skin, embedding in wood. Light, blinding white, poured out like a flood. Henry stumbled back, shielding his eyes. Delaney screamed, clutching his face. For an instant, Clara's form stood in the glow, her hair wild, her eyes fierce, her hand reaching not for Henry but for Delaney. Her voice shook the ground. "You will not bury me again." Delaney's scream was cut short. The light swallowed him whole, pulling him into the fractured void. When it faded, the gun lay in the dirt. Delaney was gone. So was Clara. The barn was silent. The mirror reduced to glittering dust across the floor. Aftermath. Days later, Delaney's cruiser was found abandoned near the old quarry. The town whispered, as towns always do. Some said he ran. Some said Henry finally snapped and killed him. Henry said nothing. He sat on his porch at dusk, Scout at his feet. The air smelled of rain, the sky bruised purple. For the first time in years, the weight on his chest lifted, not gone, but lighter. Martha came by, leaving a basket of bread, without a word. She lingered, though, her eyes searching his. "Is it over?" she asked softly. Henry stared out at the fields, the barn silhouetted against the fading light. "No," he said quietly. "Truth doesn't end. It just stops hiding." She nodded, though her face showed she didn't fully understand. She turned to leave. Henry took one last swallow of whiskey and whispered to the night, "Rest now, Clara." The wind carried the words away. Scout whined once, then settled his head on Henry's boot. The farm fell quiet, but in that quiet was something new. Not fear, not grief, but a kind of peace. And though Henry would never admit it, sometimes in the shards of glass still buried in the barn floor, he swore he saw Clara smile. Not broken, not haunted, just free.